Gen Z's favorite thing to do is to talk about how hard things are for them and how their future is screwed. They think their generation faces outrageously difficult challenges, so why even try? If you think that way, here's your wake-up call. Your generation is not special. You face some challenges for sure, but the truth is you have it pretty great. And there are tons of opportunities in this world. So maybe it's time to stop hiding from your future and start moving forward. Let's talk about how embracing a my generation victim mentality can make for a self-fulfilling prophecy that just holds you back, and how you can escape from that narrative and get to work on building your life. Spoiler alert, building your life is going to take focus, effort, and courage, but you can do it just like millions of people have done before you. Ashley is 27, and she works at a retirement community. She has a hard time getting excited about anything because the future just seems gloomy and hopeless for people her age. Everyone she talks to agrees that her generation is kind of screwed because the economy sucks and the job market is in the dumper. Jobs don't have security and employers just use people. The government is a mess, run by a bunch of rich and self-serving old guys who don't care at all about the needs of this generation. Rent is stupid expensive and prices keep going up. AI is going to take all the jobs. It's impossible for anyone to get ahead these days, so what's even the point? Many emerging adults today believe that the challenges their generation faces are more difficult than those faced by prior generations. Your generation certainly faces unprecedented challenges, such as evolving social norms, cultural and political conflict, distrust in institutions, a high cost of living, and a significant rise in mental health problems. You are coming of age in a rapidly changing and uncertain world. One could reasonably argue that your generation, on the whole, faces challenges that are much more daunting than those faced by boomers, millennials, or Gen Xers as they came of age. But a different, compounding problem exists that some people your age are hearing and buying into a narrative, shared broadly and reinforced on social media, that things are so bad that personal success, security, and happiness in the traditional sense is just unlikely for someone in your generation, or it would come at too high a cost. And you look at your parents' generation and how easy it apparently was for them, and it all just seems unfair. So you go online and find these echo chambers of worry, angst, anger, and outrage from other people your age, and their failure stories told in bitter victimization narratives. If a person your age is already struggling with doubts about their capabilities or interests, the my generation is screwed narrative can be attractive both as a rationale for their anxious feelings and as a shelter from taking personal responsibility for their life. That narrative can really take root, and their coming-of-age difficulties will get wrapped up in feelings of cynicism, pessimism, fear, hopelessness, and anger. Is it possible that you've been taking in a lot of doom and failure perspectives? Are you signed up for, or considering signing up for, the my generation is screwed narrative? A cornerstone of these feelings, and a key part of the problem, is the ever-present argument that your parents' generation had it easier. It's not a foolish argument, because in many ways it's just true. The problem is that it lacks historical perspective on the human experience, an appreciation that countless generations of people in a huge diversity of historical settings have struggled really hard to survive and overcome and find prosperity after terrible circumstances. The simple truth is that your generation is not facing difficulties that are objectively worse than other generations have faced. You don't need to look very far to find examples and role models of people who were doing courageous and difficult things when they were your age. Let's consider the stories of some people Ashley knows at the retirement community. Mamie met her husband Ozzie during the civil rights protests in Alabama in 1965 when they were in their early 20s. When protesters took on terrible odds to demand important legal and cultural changes in our country. People of all ages worked together and supported each other physically and emotionally in this difficult time. And then Mamie went on to become a teacher, and Ozzie became a lawyer. Dr. Gupta grew up in desperate poverty in India. He worked as a laborer during the day, and he studied at night just to get a shot at medical school in the States. When he arrived here, he had education but nothing else. It took him 4 tries to pass his medical board exams. Now he's a well-established doctor, and he sends money back home to India every month to support his younger cousins who are working to build a life just like he did. Carl was the son of Italian immigrants who had very little money. He started laying bricks when he was 14 years old. He joined the army when he was 18 and got wounded in the Korean War, and he came home with medals for his bravery. By the time he was 25, he was out of the army and back home laying bricks again. Chenda's family was killed in the Cambodian Civil War when she was just 7. After the war, she spent 3 years as an orphan in a refugee camp in the Philippines. Finally, an uncle found her there and moved her to the States, where she first had to learn English. Then she grew up working service jobs during the day and cooking in a Chinese restaurant at night. Tilly was born into a very poor family in Ohio in the 1930s, and her parents were farmers who spoke only broken English. She had to drop out of school to work on the farm when she was 16. But she was good with numbers, and eventually she got a job in a local bank, and she worked there for 45 years while she went on to raise her 2 daughters and also take care of her parents. You probably know people with stories like these as well. If you ask about their lives, you will hear how hard they worked, and also how proud they are of what they accomplished. Then consider their stories relative to things you hear people saying when you're doom scrolling. You probably find posts about how life today is too hard, and you're going to lose anyway, and what's the point? But if you pull back and look at all those posts in the aggregate, they can start to sound just sad and even pathetic. Have you been living in, and maybe participating in, a toxic mix of gloom, negativity, and cynicism? It might be time for you to reconsider who you're listening to, what content you're taking in, and how it's shaping your thinking. Instead, maybe seek the company of people who inspire you with their courage and fortitude. Movies and books that tell true stories about real people who face challenges are a great place to start. Appreciate the reality of what they did, and then Google how old they were when they did it. You will be amazed at what people your age are capable of. Also, try to talk to some real people who are out there right now, leaning into their lives, busting their ass, hustling to build a better future for themselves. Talk to tradespeople, owners of small businesses, and entrepreneurs. Talk to pretty much anyone you meet with an accent that indicates they might have come to this country to make a better life for themselves and their children. Then listen to appreciate what they've overcome and what they're trying to accomplish. Once you start looking around, you will see that lots of people started out in simple or even super difficult circumstances, much, much worse than yours actually, but they got to work on building their lives one step at a time. And you will find that these people know, just like you do, that there are serious and scary things going on in our world right now, but they're leaning into their future with ambition and energy and even optimism. They just don't have time for doom scrolling because they're too busy building their lives. Then consider the possibility, actually the truth, that you also have what it takes to build a happy, secure, and satisfying life in this crazy world. You probably have some things to sort out, and maybe some serious growing and learning to do, but you should just get on with it. Because your future isn't waiting for perfect conditions, it's waiting for you. This Lost in Place workshop episode was created and narrated by me, Marty O'Toole. I'm a semi-retired business guy turned life and career coach for people in their 20s. I work with young adults across the country who are having a hard time transitioning into adulthood, and I started this workshop series to help more people find their way. You can learn about my coaching practice with the link below. This video was illustrated and produced by the artist Bardo. Mackenzie, also known as Zen Kenzie, is our channel manager and program director. If you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might need it, and drop your thoughts or suggestions in the comments. Want to understand why we say lost in place instead of failure to launch? Check out our explainer video. And don't forget to subscribe so you can catch the next episode. Thanks.